What's up, guys? It's Hayden.
Hey, and I'm Emma. Welcome back to our channel. Thank you so much again for joining us. If you are new to our channel, welcome. We are finally doing our Star Wars Rise of Skywalker spoiler review and discussion. We have been talking about doing this for a few weeks now. We've been very, very busy, but also we just needed the time to digest this movie.
Yeah, just let it stew.
It's the last one in the saga, and there has been a lot of debate with this new movie.
What's new with Star Wars?
Yeah. It's obviously got a lot of haters, but it's also got a lot of people who like the movie too. So it's really divided people, again, as Star Wars tends to always do. And if you did watch our last, we did do a spoiler-free review, a very quick one when we first... straight away.
Literally as soon as we got home.
As soon as we got home from midnight screening. So if you did watch that...
you kind of know our general thoughts.
You kind of know that we actually did like the movie. Yeah. But we wanted to do a more in-depth one and sort of break down everything that happened in this wrap-up. So Hayden's done things a little bit differently. He's made some little notes here for us to follow. Some key points to talk about. So we'll jump right in. If you haven't seen the movie yet, obviously we're talking about spoilers, as I said. So don't watch this.
No,
but if you
go see the movie instead.
Go and see the movie. But if you have seen the movie and you want to know our final thoughts on Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, come along. We'll kick things off with, what did you think about the Emperor returning?
Look, I'm going to be honest, I didn't like Snoke as the big bad in this trilogy. I just didn't think there was any weight to it. It's like, who is he?
Where'd he come from?
Where'd he come from?
Yeah.
Why should we care? You know? He was just like this big powerful force user, and that's about all he had going for him. But it's like, okay, well, where has he been hiding this whole time? If he was out there in the universe being as powerful as he is, then why didn't Emperor Palpatine know about him, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker? How come we only found out about him now? So, and I think that's what a few people wanted explained, but even then, like, I just didn't really care. And I feel like the final 3 movies of a 9-series saga, I feel like you want your bad guy to have a bit of weight and for you to actually care that, you know, about the bad guy and the good guys and about that struggle. Which in that way of thinking, I think it makes sense for Emperor Palpatine to come back. Because who's that constant through all 9 movies? Yeah. Emperor Palpatine. He's the one that's been pulling the strings and has been the big threat through all 9 movies now. And I think it just makes sense. It made sense to bring him back. I just think they could have set it up maybe a little bit earlier. And I guess that's, you know, a big problem a lot of people had with this trilogy is that it wasn't set up properly. It wasn't written out from the start. So I think maybe at the end of The Last Jedi, even in like a post-credit sequence, they could have just hinted that the Emperor was coming back. I think that would have maybe cleared things up a little bit, and maybe it wouldn't have seemed so just shoved in there. But I do think that he needed to be the big bad. I think it needed to happen.
I didn't hate it. They needed to bring someone back, didn't they?
Well, they killed off Snoke. So whoops, too late to go back.
It's kind of like, who was the bad guy going to be, other than, you know, there was the potential for Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
But I still, as you said, I don't think it would have had that weight. And it does make sense that he's come back. I mean, in the moment, I was sort of like, yeah, but how did he survive that fall?
Yes, and I guess that's another issue a lot of people have is they think, well, there's no way you could have survived, you know? Like, there's no explanation. And look, I get it, but look, guys, let's just suspend our disbelief just for a second and remember that Star Wars is fantasy. It's not sci-fi. It's fantasy.
Yeah.
And look, in fantasy, you do have rules. Like, you do have to create rules within this fantasy world and kind of stick to those rules. And the thing with that's always been with the Force is that those rules have kind of been a little bit blurry, you know. You kind of don't know where those limits are with the Force. It's ever expanding. And look, that does give you a lot of freedom as a filmmaker to expand on those abilities and to come up with some new ways of using it, which they did in this new trilogy, or whether you liked that or hated that. I thought they did add some really interesting Force abilities. But, you know, if you just suspend your disbelief for a second, it makes sense that he would be able to survive. I mean, he's one of the most powerful Force users in this universe. Right from that prequel trilogy with his discussions with Anakin Skywalker, you know, and he's talking about the dark side and how it can lead to ways of kind of cheating death. You know, it makes sense that he would have like a contingency plan, like a backup plan if things went wrong. Or that he would even have the ability to create, I don't know, like a force field around him, or to be able to teleport using the Force. You know, can we just suspend our disbelief just for a second? Just for the sake of entertainment. Like, that's all this is. It's entertainment, guys. Let's just, you know, I don't feel like everything needs to be explained. And that's when movies start to become really exposition heavy. And people were complaining that this movie was too exposition heavy as it was. And now they want more explanations on other things. And look, I get it. They should have brought that into play at the end of the
Last
Jedi. But I think I didn't feel like I needed to know. I was like, cool, he's back. I don't need to know how. He's a powerful Force user. I can suspend my disbelief.
Yeah. And look, it was just a fleeting thought that I had, that I was a bit like, I'd kind of like to know how he survived that. But I didn't dwell on it enough for it to kind of ruin the whole idea of him being back. Yeah. So.
And look, a lot of people are calling it like a plot hole. And look, it's not, and it's only a plot hole if there's just like no way that would happen, or it's just so far-fetched that it just doesn't make sense. Which it's not. It can be explained. You know, it's not so far-fetched that he would have the ability to be able to preserve himself. Or there's, you know, people saying that it was a clone of Palpatine, and maybe he had like a clone of himself that when he died, the clone would rise to power.
The Force is very powerful.
The Force is strong with him. Let's just put it that way.
The Force is very strong.
Yeah.
Maybe he used a Horcrux. I had to. I've been going on about how much he did remind me of Voldemort and Dementors in this movie, though. And I just love annoying him with it.
Just make a Harry Potter reference and everything. Moving on.
I'm sorry, but seriously, didn't he? Very Dementor-like.
Yes. So we didn't hate the Emperor thing. We liked it. We thought that he needed to come back.
And he looked cool.
He looked cool. I like what they did with like the costume, the makeup, the whole
machinery.
Like the whole look of that Sith world, and like how he was like hooked up to this crane thing. Like all that was really cool.
Making him fly like a Dementor. I'm sorry.
Stop.
Sorry.
Stop. Yeah, all of that was cool. I just think if anything, they probably just could have handled the whole reveal of it maybe a little bit better, rather than just kind of putting it in the opening crawl. Hey, he's back. You know, we sent a Force SMS to the universe saying, hey, I'm here, guys. I think maybe that could have been handled a little bit better. But aside from that, yeah, I think he needed to come back.
Yep.
All right, moving on.
Moving on to the next one, which is, what did you think about Rey being a Palpatine?
Ooh, okay. I don't have as positive thoughts about this one. I actually liked what Rian Johnson did with Rey in The Last Jedi, with the fact that she came from nothing, her parents were no one. Because I love that message of, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, who your parents are, you can be a hero, you can be someone, you can make a difference. Mm-hmm. You know, you didn't need to come from this like royal line or this, you know, this family heritage of Force users, you know. I like that message in The Last Jedi, and I didn't like how JJ just kind of wiped his hands clean of that and like, no, she's a Palpatine, sorry dude. Yeah.
Did you think that that's what they would do, or were you surprised? Were you surprised that they went that way when we saw it?
I was hoping JJ would just kind of go with what Rian Johnson did and just kind of go with it. So I guess I was a little bit surprised in that aspect. But yeah, I feel like JJ with this one, he kind of just tried to appease the fans a bit too much. And so in that regard, yeah, it kind of made sense that he would rewrite that, because a lot of people weren't happy with that.
I mean, I wasn't surprised, and I didn't mind that she's a Palpatine. As sweet as that thought is, that, you know, anyone could be anyone despite your background. You know me, I kind of like I do like an explanation, and I do like lineage, and I didn't believe that she was just from nowhere and she belonged to just anyone. Like I just felt like she was way too powerful.
Yeah, she's a little bit OP. Yeah. I'm not going to go to the extent of calling her a Mary Sue. I hate when people say that. I just think it's stupid.
Have you been saying that about her?
Oh,
I must have
it's
missed
all
that.
over the bloody internet. I won't go to that extent. I'm not going to be one of those people. But yeah, like she did have very powerful force abilities. Like let's not joke around here. She was very powerful.
So I kind of went in expecting that something big like that would be her deal, and then especially once you see her bloody, lightning hands, I was like, oh well, obviously she's a Palpatine.
I guess it fits in with the way Star Wars has always been. Like you have to come from this family. Like the Skywalkers have a powerful family. You've got to have that bloodline. But Rian Johnson was just trying to do something different. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people didn't like that it was different. But I think Star Wars does need to evolve and be different if it's going to go anywhere. Because now we're just kind of treading the same.
But like
stories
seriously, I don't think Star Wars could ever win. Like the fans don't like this, so then they change it, and then they don't like that. It's like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah. So we're a bit on the fence about, you didn't mind it, I didn't quite like it. I will say this, like I guess it did create like a new message of, it doesn't matter if you're born into an evil bloodline or, it doesn't matter who your parents are, if they're bad, you can still kind of find your own path and be good in spite of that. Yeah. So there was that message.
We all have choices.
But yeah, I just felt like it didn't really flow on very well from the message of The Last Jedi.
Okay, fair enough. What were your thoughts on the first half of the film, like the pacing, the exposition, all that?
I didn't mind it. I know a lot of people had an issue with it. It was very fast-paced, but I think that fit well with this whole thing of like the Resistance just being so desperate. They were ravaged at the end of The Last Jedi. Like, they were just torn to shreds.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of this film, just being so fast-paced and just shoving us straight into the action, you could feel that desperation of the Resistance just trying to just hang on and to find a way to kind of overcome the First Order. That came across really well for me, and I think the editing was a big part of that. So I didn't have an issue following it. I followed it fine. There was a lot of exposition, and look, I'm generally not a big fan of exposition, but it didn't bother me too much. It didn't take me right out of the film. Obviously, the less exposition, the better. But the way JJ made this film, he was pretty much just trying to set up his own movie within the movie.
Another movie.
Yeah, it's almost like he was trying to create a second film within the third film and set up his own shit.
Yeah. So
that's just that's more, I guess, on how JJ wanted to make this movie.
Look, obviously there was going to be a lot to wrap up in this movie, like a lot of ends to tie up. And while I know what everyone's talking about now with that fast pace, and the cutting and all that, but in the moment I was just so engaged, and I think it was all the adrenaline of a new Star Wars movie that I didn't notice it in the moment. Like I was switched on.
So it kept that, like, you had that adrenaline of the new Star Wars movie, and then it just kept that adrenaline going, like through the first half of the film. It was just like breakneck speed. So
so in the moment it didn't bother me. But as I said, now that everyone's sort of been talking about it, and I'm thinking back, and I'm like, look, I can definitely see what everyone's talking about, but in the moment, isn't that all that matters? Like, I was able to follow it. I was there for the ride,
exactly.
So I was fine with it.
Yeah.
All right, thoughts on our old characters like Poe, Finn, Rey, Kylo, and Rose?
Well, I'd also like to throw Leia into the mix and talk about her a little bit, because how they handled Leia, I think it has to be commended. They had a really tough job trying to, I guess, work around her untimely death and her unfortunate death. I mean, that's not an easy position to put for a filmmaker to be in. And so you got to commend them for that. Like, what they did with Leia was, very respectful.
Yep.
And it didn't feel out of place. And, it didn't feel like they had to work around those restraints. You know, I think they did that really well. They did it justice. They did Carrie Fisher proud, and they honoured her legacy really well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't envy them at all.
No.
It would have been such a tough job to...
And not just from a technical standpoint, just from an emotional standpoint.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Because, you know, they would have worked with Carrie Fisher through the first 2 movies. Some of them might have worked with her for longer than that, you know, being fans of her since the original trilogy, you know, seen her grow up in front of our eyes, you know, the original trilogy. So, yeah, not just from a technical standpoint, but just from an emotional standpoint, just trying to...
And let's not forget, Carrie Fisher's daughter
is
in this movie, and in The Last Jedi. Like, how hard would it have been for her to, Billie Lourd, for her to have filmed this, knowing that she's meant to be acting like side by side her mother, who is no longer with us, so with her. So yeah, I don't envy anyone on that set, but what they did do, I think they did well. I remember in the moment I was like, wow, how'd they do this? Like, I didn't know going in that they had used previous footage film from other movies.
From the other 2 movies.
Which makes sense. I mean, the only other thing they could have done would be CGI. And while there is some really good de-aging CGI out there now and all that, I mean, it would have been a lot of hard work, I think, to just completely CGI her character for the whole thing. So I think...
I'm glad they didn't go that way, because
No.
I think then it probably wouldn't have been done respectfully.
Yeah, I think they did do well with it, and well done, guys. Like, it would have been really tough.
Yeah. But as for like Rey, Poe, Finn, I like that they were together on an adventure for once, rather than being kind of split up doing their own thing. I like how they kind of came together. You got to see the trio in action. You got to see Rey and Poe have some interaction, and you got to see their relationship a little bit, which we haven't really seen much of. They've always been kind of separated, doing their own thing.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. I liked seeing the trio together for the last movie. I didn't like how they treated Rose, though. And that actually really pissed me off.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think it was pretty weak by JJ as a filmmaker to kind of break to that pressure from that part of the fan base to write her out of the movie. I just thought it was a bit weak. And I think... weak on that side of the fan base too, that was giving that actor so much shit and that character so much shit. Like, it's fine if you didn't like a character and if you didn't like a movie, that's fine. But some of those people that are just acting like complete idiots online and just especially attacking the actress, like, it's not on. It's not on. And unfortunately, that part of the Star Wars fan base has a bit of a bad history, a bit of a bad track record with that. You know, the guy who played Jar Jar Binks was almost driven to suicide. The kid who played Anakin in The Phantom Menace pretty much quit acting after The Phantom Menace because of the shit he was copying. Yeah. It's so sad to see, because these guys are just doing it and trying to do a job.
They're
you know,
literally
you got to
doing a job.
You got to separate the movie from the people, the actors.
Yeah.
You know, it's fine to hate a character.
But
you don't. I mean, look, even in saying that, you don't need to go online and just have a massive bitch fest about how much you hate the character. Like, there's you know, you can say stuff respectfully. You can have an opinion respectfully, but actually attacking the actors and the actresses, I think, is just not on. Yeah. And I think it was a bit weak by JJ to just buckle to that and say, yeah, okay, I'll write her out of the movie.
Do you think that's why he did, or do you actually think
I think he did cop to the pressure of that side of the fan base that didn't like the character.
You don't think he had planned all
along? I think that's why that's why they brought him in for the third one, was to play it safe and to do what the fans wanted, or what he thought the fans wanted. But you know, there is another side of the fan base too that loves Rose, you know, loves Kelly Marie Tran, wanted to see more of her in this film. Yeah. And I think they did that side of the fan base a bit of a disservice. Yeah. And like, Rose wasn't my favorite character in Last Jedi. I definitely didn't hate her. She was fine. She served the role well. She helped Finn with his arc. Yeah. Big part of his arc. So she had her part to play in that one. I just didn't like how they just completely wrote her out. I thought it was,
Yeah, I have to say I was a bit disappointed with what they did with her character. It's kind of like she played such a which she was in the film a lot in The Last Jedi. Like,
Yeah.
she played quite a prominent role. And then,
She was integral to Finn's arc in that movie.
I mean, she bloody saved his life. And they had a kiss. They had a moment.
That
like,
wasn't touched. That whole romance was just completely forgotten about.
They essentially set up somewhat of a relationship. And then nothing in this new one. Like, it's kind of like totally disregarded. It's all forgotten about. And I was like, oh, okay, we're not like acknowledging that something happened between them. And
There was this one scene, I think they right at the start of the movie where they bump into each other and they're like, hey, do you want to come along? Oh, no, I can't. And then it's just like Finn just gives her like a pat on the back. It's just like massive friend zone.
oh, brutal.
Brutal.
Yeah, she kind of just became a bit of a third wheel, didn't she? It was, again, she wasn't my favorite character either, but I just feel like if you've set up a character and a storyline with them, do something with it. Don't just be like, just going to ignore what happened there.
Jay just wiped his hands at that and like, hey, she wasn't my character. I didn't want her in there.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that. But look, I think most of this movie was about the relationship between Kylo and Rey, and I think they did that well. Except for one little part, but I'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, I think they set that up really well in The Last Jedi. Ryan set that up really well in The Last Jedi. Their connection, that Force connection. And that was one thing that JJ did carry through.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God he carried something through.
Yeah. And I like that they can do that. I thought that was a really cool addition.
And I did like how Kylo turned to the light. I think that was the way to go with his character. Now, those saying that he should have lived, no. No, he shouldn't have. Sorry. He had done too much shit to live. And have a happily ever after ending. Everyone wanted him and Rey to live happily ever after in a cottage by the sea, white picket fence. Like, no. He needed to die. His redemption was him going back to the light and helping Rey beat Palpatine. That was his redemption. He got that, but he needed to die.
Yep.
I didn't like the kiss.
You didn't like it?
I didn't like the kiss. I think that was too far. I think, and look, I know they had that Force connection, but yeah, I didn't really feel like there was sexual chemistry there, I guess, but I feel like they just sort of, I guess, had that look at each other. I didn't mind that whole longing look at each other, like, and that embrace. I think that was fine, but I think the kiss was just a little bit too far. It was almost like, hey, those that are on like the Kylo Rey train, this one's for you.
Look, yeah, I did like that Kylo came good. There was a split moment when I was watching it that I didn't really like it, purely because, you know, me and my black heart. I hate when bad guys come good. Like, I'm like, no, stay evil and always seek revenge. Like, I just...
Yeah, he made a good bad guy.
And he was so good as the bad guy. So I was like, no, but then as it unfolded, it was believable. I believed him and his turn. So, and I did really love that scene between him and Han. Like, some
bringing
people
Harrison Ford back.
Yeah, some people didn't like that, but I thought that was a really beautiful scene.
And how it played out exactly the same as the scene from The Force Awakens, but it meant something different to him in that moment. Like, he's saying, I know what I need to do, but I don't know if I've got the strength to do it. In that moment in The Force Awakens, it was about killing Han and trying to forget his past. But in this moment, it was about, I know I need to be good, but I don't know if I've got the strength to do it. Like, it played out the exact same way, but it had a different meaning. I really loved that throwback. Yeah.
It was a really powerful scene, and I mean, of course they had to bring back Harrison Ford for the final. And yeah, I believed it when that unfolded. I was like, yeah, he truly does want to be good. And when he came running in all badass, and he got his what did they do? They did their little force trick.
Oh, the whole force trick, yeah.
And brings out the lightsaber. Like, that whole scene was so cool, and I was like, yeah, man. But and again, in the moment, I too didn't like the kiss. But I've been thinking about it. As I said, like in the moment I was like, oh, no, I don't know how I feel about it. Stop. But then I was like, no, actually, you know what? It may not... Well, yes, you could argue that there has been a little bit of sexual tension going on between them over the course of the movies. You could also argue that kiss... Like, she just died. And then he brought her back. And now he's dying. It could have just been one of those things where they got caught up in the moment, and it could have just been purely like a thank you kiss, like a kiss to be like, yes, thank you for coming to the light. You know, I don't know how to explain.
That was more than a thank you kiss.
No, it was a passionate kiss, but I don't think it was necessarily a romantic one. I think, you know, people can get caught up in moments and just, when such big things like that happen, you just want to embrace the closest person next to you. And they did share a lot over the course of the films. And
don't get me wrong, I like the embrace. I like the embrace. I feel like that was earned. I just didn't like the kiss. That was it. I think the kiss was just maybe a step too far.
Yeah. And look, as I said, in the moment I was a bit, icky. But I've kind of, for me, I'm justifying that it works. So.
And what about Rey being, at the end of the movie, kind of renouncing her Palpatine title and naming herself a Skywalker?
Yeah, I figured that's what she would do. I mean, she obviously doesn't want anything to do with the dark side. Yeah. So, and she spent so much time with Luke and Leia.
Didn't know her parents, so there was no connection there.
And I mean, the title's Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it makes sense that, you know, she got trained by Luke and Leia. She was very close to both of them. It just makes sense. Like, and even Han, like Han is, you know, kind of part of that family too. You know, and she was very close to him in The Force Awakens. So it makes sense that she wants to be connected to them rather than to that Palpatine name.
Yeah. And Kylo was technically a Skywalker too. I mean, Leia's his mum. So, and obviously they ended up having a connection in the end.
And what about her burying their lightsabers in Tatooine, outside of the old house?
That was
going
a nice
back to
moment.
where it started. Yeah, I thought it was a nice moment. I heard people say they didn't like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they didn't like that. That you know, that was the one place that, you know, Leia had, like, you know, hated. Luke hated it there, but I think it's deeper than that. I think no matter where you end up, you always remember your roots. You always remember where you grew up, even if that place that you grew up was horrible, because it made you who you are.
Yeah.
So even if you grew up in, you know, if we're talking about like modern day society, like if you grew up in the ghetto and you end up making it, you don't forget where you came from.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what made you who you are. That's what gave you that drive to want to do better.
It's just part of your story.
It's part of your story. So I don't mind that they went back there and that she buried their lightsabers there, because that's where, you know, that's where Luke grew up. That's where this whole story started. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I thought
there's
it was
also
a beautiful
people.
moment.
Yeah, there's also people saying that Rey being alone at the end of the movie. Yeah, I know people were saying that, you know, after all she went through, she didn't deserve to be alone or something. Or they hated that she was alone at the end of the movie.
Look, she had quite the journey.
Yeah.
I mean,
but she's not stuck there. Like, there's no one's insinuating that she's setting up camp in Tatooine. Yeah. Like, she just flew there to bury the lightsaber, and she's probably back off to the Resistance. Like, she's got BB-8 with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not just gonna take BB-8 away from Poe.
Exactly. We don't know what she's doing. But if she was going off on her own, girl deserves it. I mean, she probably needs some alone time.
Strong, independent woman.
No, but like, if you've just been through such traumas, let's not forget, she literally died as well. Like, she probably needs to restore some energy and some saneness again.
Yeah, probably just needs time to think.
Just needs time to process everything that just happened to her.
So I didn't mind that ending for her.
I did really like how it all wrapped up for Kylo and Rey. Yeah. I think it made sense. Moving on to the new characters, Jana and Zuri Bliss. What did you think of them?
I don't think they needed to be added. I think that it was just taking too much storyline and screen time away from the other characters that needed it. Like Rose. Like, these new characters came in and you didn't care about them. They were just there. And meanwhile, Rose is getting like 5 minutes of screen time. Like, no. They were fine, but I didn't really care for them too much.
Yeah. Also, I just want to quickly add, I really liked that Dominic Monaghan was in this movie.
Yeah.
But they didn't utilize him. Like,
No.
he's such a good actor, and he's got a name for himself, and he's literally like an extra in this. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe he didn't want a big role. Maybe it was, because there's a few stars who kind of just want to be involved in Star Wars because they're fans. So maybe it could have been that scenario, but...
And look, he's used to big adventures. So, he might have come in handy, you know?
Yeah, I would have really have liked to have seen him play a bit more of a role in it, but anyway, I like Dom, so. Yeah. But it was cool to see him in there anyway.
Overall, I think new characters were fine. I just think they took too much screen time away from some of the other characters that we actually give a shit about.
Yeah. I didn't really like Zori Bliss. She was okay. I felt a little bit bored watching her thing. Like, sure, both the new girls were cool in their own rights, but I wanted to get back to the characters that we love and know. I just thought they were a little bit filler.
And that's always the risk you play when you bring in new characters with a story like this, is that when people are watching it, they're like, yeah, that's all well and good, but can we get back to the main guys?
Yeah. It's kind of like, they kind of set them up like they had all this history behind them, obviously between Zora and Poe as well. It's like, we're setting up, there's all this history and stuff and all this overlining storyline, but we're not going to touch on it.
He was a spice runner.
Yeah, it's kind of like, we're just going to mention this and accept that and move on, and it's kind of like, do we even need that? Like, I don't know.
Just stuff that didn't really, I guess, push the story forward too much.
Yeah, I feel like they could have used their time in the movie elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we could use our time elsewhere too.
Let's
move on.
Okay, story elements and plot points. What did you think of them?
Okay, so I think JJ should have followed on from what Ryan set up in The Last Jedi. I think he tried to change too much, and a lot of that opening half of the film was, a lot of exposition trying to set up how he wanted the film to go. Where I felt like it just should have been like a natural flow and progression from The Last Jedi. So on that aspect, I wasn't really a big fan. And I also, I wouldn't say I hated it, but I didn't quite like that there were, that whole MacGuffin way of storytelling where they've got to go and find this item to go find that item to go find that item to get them to here. It's just like this device that, kind of pushes that story forward, but it's almost a little bit of a lazy way of pushing the story forward, if you know what I mean. I'm happy with, trying to find one item to get to where you need to go, but it almost felt like they needed to find 3 items to get to where they needed to go.
Yeah.
In saying that though, I mean, if it is this Sith world, like, you obviously want to make it difficult for people to get there. So I get that, but maybe a bit more thought could have been put into that, and maybe they could have put something, I don't know, story with a bit more meaning, maybe.
Yeah, it kind of felt a little bit like, all right, we've got these characters and we've got these characters and we know what they've got to do, but these guys are still prominent in the movie and we need to find something for them to do just to fill out the time until they meet up with these guys. It was kind of like, all right, what are they going to do? Well, it was just...
And I get it. They wanted to make it feel like an old school, like, adventure, like an Indiana Jones kind of thing where they need to find, like, the crystal skull or, the thing. They got to find the thing. So I get it, and that's what I mean. Like, I didn't hate it. It didn't take me out of the film.
Yeah.
But I thought it probably could have been done a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I think we touched on this, but I really liked, Rey and Kylo's storyline. Like, I think they did that storyline really well, and that was one thing that JJ did carry on from The Last Jedi. And I think that's why it worked. Because it's like the one thing that JJ carried on. So there was it was built up. It was built up from The Last Jedi, so it worked. It worked really well. Emperor Palpatine coming back, I think they probably should have set that up a little bit better. And like, if they were going to do it, set it up a little bit into The Last Jedi. So again, it just flows. And look, I think a lot of the issues with the story come from just not flowing on from The Last Jedi. Just trying to change too much. If you had that natural flow and progression, I think the story would have been a lot stronger for it. But in saying that, I didn't hate the story enough that it took me out. Like, I still really enjoyed the movie in the moment and wasn't lost. I get where they were going and all that. All of that made sense. So I didn't hate it.
Yep. And look, touching on the storyline just quickly, I would like to mention I just wish they'd taken a few more risks with it.
Yeah. And look, JJ's not known for his risk taking, and that's why he was hired. Because people didn't like the risks that The Last Jedi took, and so they brought in JJ because knew JJ was safe. And yeah, this is what you get. This is what you get, whether you love it or hate it.
But see, this is why we like The Last Jedi, because we like the risks.
It took chances. It took risks.
Yes. It's ballsy. I like a movie and a TV show that can just grab you and be like,
Sons of Anarchy, Game of Thrones,
They're like, this
shows
is
that
what
aren't
we're doing.
afraid to kill off those main characters. Yeah.
I love a show and a film that is not afraid to kill off the main character. And when it was insinuated that Chewie was gonna die in that explosion, I was feeling shocked and panicky and emotional. I was like, oh my God, are they going there? Are they gonna kill Chewie? Oh my goodness. And I was...
And it's literally like the next scene. And it's like, oh no.
And then no. And I was like, honestly, I was a little bit disappointed.
Yeah.
I kind of wish they'd gone there. Please don't come for me. I promise I love Chewie. I really do. I love him so much. But I do kind of wish they'd gone through killing him off, because I just think it would have been more powerful and more, I was going into this movie going, I'm going to cry in this. I'm going to be so emotional. It's the end. We're going to lose people. We're going to lose favorites. And then we didn't.
No.
We kind of had one main death, and that was Kylo, which you kind of had to expect either him or Rey were going to die, like, surely. And then, yeah, but that was it. I was really expecting a lot more...
Weight.
Yeah.
Stakes. The higher stakes.
Yes. Yeah. And so, yeah, I have to say I was a little bit disappointed when he didn't die.
And I think it would have been a whole lot more interesting, too, seeing Rey deal with the fact that she killed Chewie. Like, the weight of that on her shoulders, through the movie, I think that would have been a lot more interesting.
How would all that unfold then? Like, what would happen? But you did mention, and I agreed, that we did get that beautiful and heart-wrenching scene at the end with Chewie dropping to his knees when he finds out about Leia.
He's howling into the air, which was the reaction I was hoping I would get when Han died, and I didn't quite get that in The Force Awakens, so I'm glad I got that when Leia unfortunately died.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so, I mean, that was a beautiful scene to have him in, as sad as it was. So
And he finally got his medal.
He did. That was sweet, yeah. Look, don't get me wrong. I do like that he survived,
That felt very fan servicey though.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you remember this? You remember this?
Good boy, now you get it. Yeah.
You want a little nostalgia treat?
Yeah. I know what you mean. But anyway, that was the only thing. I kind of wish there was more risks taken.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. All right, moving on. What do we got?
Now, okay. So, what did you think of the ending overall?
I think we covered this already with, I guess, talking about Rey and Kylo and what we thought of them and their arcs in this. So yeah, I like the ending. I like that Kylo became good. He had that arc. He redeemed himself, and then he died. I think he needed to. And that Rey decided to forget her Palpatine heritage and decided to be a Skywalker. I thought that was fine. She's very close to Luke and Leia, was trained by both of them. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I had no issue with the ending.
No, I thought it was a beautiful way to wrap it up. It was emotional. I think also just for the fact that Star Wars was ending. Well, this saga,
and
at
it
least.
ended where it started, Tatooine.
Yeah.
Which I liked.
Yeah, it was a nice little circle that
Full
they
circle,
did. Yeah. So, I think it ended how it needed to. Didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So
Nice quick one.
Nice quick one, we'll leave there. Now, okay, movie elements. So, visuals, the sound, the action, all the actual filmmaking side of it.
I think this is where you can't say a bad word about the new Star Wars trilogy is in its technical execution. visually, this latest trilogy is some of the best Star Wars we've seen. As much as I love, the old school saga, the trilogy, and the effects that they were able to use back then, I think that's amazing. I love the look of those films. But visually, this is the best Star Wars has ever been. John Williams, again, just nails it with the score. He can't do any wrong. So sound was fantastic. And the action. The action's top notch. Great action scenes.
I have to say that opening action sequence with Kylo running, I think it was in slow motion even. I love that opening. I thought that was...
Oh, when he's taking out the guys on, I think it's Mustafar, where Darth Vader's temple was.
Yeah, it was dark. It was like, yep, this is it. We're getting right into it. Here's where he's at. I love that whole opening sequence. And then we find where Palpatine is. Like, visually, that looked stunning as well. I thought I've got goosebumps now just thinking about it again. Like, when I saw it, I was like, whoa. And then we saw it on the big VMAX screen, of course, and then you've got the big sound, surround sound as well, and you're just engulfed in it.
It's a spectacle. It's a spectacle.
It is. It was just, it's like, all right, here we go, Star Wars. And it didn't disappoint again in that sense. Star Wars is epic. Everything about it is epic. You can have your dislikes on the storyline and characters and their arcs and all that.
I get those dislikes, don't get me wrong, I get that. But you just can't, on a technical level, you can't fault it. I'm sorry.
And then when John Williams comes in with that music, I'm seriously getting goosebumps.
He's one of the greatest composers of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
Hands down.
Absolutely. He's just brilliant. So I can't fault it.
Yeah.
In the filmmaking aspect of it, I thought it was great.
Yeah, fantastic.
Now, I can't read your writing.
How it fits in with the overall trilogy.
Yes.
And I think I touched on this a little bit, but I feel like this and The Last Jedi just feel like two different films. And I know they are different films, but it's almost like they're part of two different trilogies. Like they're just completely separate from each other. I don't think there's that cohesion there.
Yeah.
I think that's what was missing. I think they just needed a plan from the start. And that's one of the biggest complaints a lot of people had about this new trilogy. And I understand that. I get that. Like, I think they needed a plan right from the start.
Yeah.
I just felt like, JJ just could have taken the reins from Rian Johnson and just gone with what he was trying to do a little bit better rather than just try and change everything. So I like this as an individual movie. As the ending of a trilogy, maybe not so much. I feel like it could have been a bit more cohesive. As the ending of a 9-part series, I think it may be, probably in the same boat. Like, I think it probably could have been done a little bit better.
It had its
again,
messy moments.
I just think it comes down to plan. They just need to plan it better.
Yeah, you can definitely see what everyone's talking about, and you can definitely see that there were a few decisions that kind of didn't work. At the end of the day, I have to admit, I was a bit of a latecomer to Star Wars. I saw Star Wars as a kid, like the originals and then the prequels. I was very young. But for me growing up, I was all about Harry Potter.
Right.
Like, Harry Potter was my franchise. And I saw Star Wars, and I remember when I was a little girl and I saw the originals, I remember them just being really long, and I was confused. And then the one with Jar Jar Binks came out, and I was like, oh my God, Jar Jar Binks, he's so cute! And I'm one of those fans that everyone's going to hate because I like Jar Jar Binks, and so did my sister, and we used to fight over him, and I didn't get Star Wars when I was a kid.
And that's fine. Like, I don't think there's anything
I was all about
wrong
the
with that.
visuals, and I didn't really follow the storyline. I was into other things, and then the new trilogy came out. Force Awakens came out, and
kind of sparked your love of Star Wars.
We had, like, I'd seen Star Wars again over the years, and definitely developed more of an appreciation for it. But I definitely wasn't, like, gripped like you were as a kid, and then growing up. But then Force Awakens came out, and we did the full rewatch of all the movies up until then, and we got to the movie, and I came out, and I was like, whoa, okay, Star Wars, I'm on board for. Like, I have to say, Star Wars for me, I was hooked on the new trilogy. So that really, I think,
and it probably helped that you weren't, I guess, under the weight, I guess, of that original trilogy, like a lot of fans were growing up with it, where, you know, just, I guess, that bar was just set so high that hardly anything was going to be able to match it.
Yeah, I wasn't under the influence already. Like, I was open to new things and new characters, so...
Yeah. And I was in a weird spot growing up because I was born 89, so after the first three had come out. But I had grown up watching them on TV, and I remember, like, we taped them. We used to have, like, a VHS player with, like, the blank tapes, and whenever there was a good movie on, we'd just tape it. And we'd stop it during the commercial break so we could skip out the commercial breaks. And we used to have, like, the original trilogy on tape, recorded off the TV. So I grew up watching those, and then I was in, I think, year 6, I think, or something, round about then, when the Phantom Menace came out and the prequel trilogy came out. So I had the chance to grow up with that as well. And I actually have a real soft spot for Phantom Menace. Don't quite like Jar Jar as much as you do, but I've got a soft spot for the Phantom Menace. So I was in a weird spot, kind of like in between the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. So I actually have an appreciation for both.
Yeah.
And then this new trilogy, like, obviously just being a fan of everything Star Wars up to this point, I was just kind of open to anything, really. Yeah. So, yeah, like, it worked for me as well. Even being such a fan of the original trilogy. Like, look, don't get me wrong, the original trilogy is still the best. It's still the OG.
Yeah.
But I still have an appreciation for what they did with the new trilogy. You know, flaws and all.
Yeah, that kind of, I think, suggests our final thoughts on this. As I said, I'm new to Star Wars in a sense, coming really on board with it from Force Awakens for this new trilogy. So I kind of haven't had the issues with the storyline like other people have.
Yeah.
I do...
How they treated, like, the original characters. You didn't, like,
I wasn't...
You weren't as connected to them.
Yeah, I wasn't as invested growing up with it. So I can totally understand where people are coming from.
So Rian Johnson didn't ruin your childhood?
No, he didn't. And I actually wouldn't have minded seeing what he would have done with the last one.
Yeah.
I think he would have taken the risks. I wanted.
Trevorrow was actually meant to take this one. The guy who did Jurassic World. He was actually meant to do this one, yeah. There's meant to be a leaked script going around at the moment.
Right.
About what he would have done. So
okay.
Interesting, but we'll never know. We'll never know. What we got is what we got. So we just got to deal with it. So just make the most of it. I think this is a movie you just got to go in just to have fun with, just to enjoy it. You know, don't take it too seriously. Suspend your disbelief in a couple of moments, and just have fun with it. And I think if you do that, you'll go out and you had a good time at the cinema. You would have enjoyed yourself.
Yeah.
But I think if you take this as seriously as a lot of fans are doing, then yeah, I guess some of those minor flaws are going to seem like major flaws, and you're probably going to be a bit disappointed with it.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, you need to remind yourself, this is a movie.
It's entertainment.
It's for entertainment. And ask yourself the question, were you entertained?
Are you not entertained?
That's all that matters. If you were entertained, then damn, it was a good movie. And I was entertained.
Doesn't make it a masterpiece. Doesn't need to be a masterpiece. But if you're entertained, that at least makes it a good movie.
Yes.
It did its job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's still, even with all of the debate and the feedback from everyone, my opinion is still unchanged. I liked The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. I liked the new trilogy. I'm a Star Wars fan now. I really do like anything Star Wars now. And I think, they can do things wrong sometimes, but it's not enough.
That's human nature.
Yeah.
Humans make mistakes.
It's not enough for me to write it off.
Yeah, don't crucify them for it. Just, like, I give JJ shit, but and I've called him out on this video, but I don't hate the guy. Like, I still respect the guy. Like, to be able to go out and make a feature film, that's not easy. A lot of people out there, I think it's easy to do. It's not.
And then
And
add
I should
the pressure.
know because I've been there. I've worked on 2 feature films.
Yeah,
I know how hard, and that's on like a small budget,
Yeah.
like couple of week shoot, you know. This is like, you know, production over years and, you know, massive budgets and big sets and
Yeah.
like heaps of actors, like
And add the pressure of
the pressure of a
history.
fan base and the history. Like, it's not easy, guys. So let's
Yeah.
just calm down a bit and just give them, I guess, just a little bit of understanding and respect.
little bit of
and,
credit.
Yeah,
No.
just a little bit of credit because it's still a spectacle. And as we said, from a technical standpoint, you know, still brilliant. Like visually, and the action and the score, all of that is still
and the
fantastic.
acting. I
Acting
don't
is
even touch on
fantastic.
it. The actors, Adam Driver as Kylo Ren, one of the most outstanding characters in the entire Star Wars franchise, I have to say. He is brilliant in that role. Perfect casting. I really like Daisy Ridley as Rey. Like, she was fantastic in that role as well. Like, we have such a good cast as well, bringing these characters to life.
Oscar Isaac, a lot of charisma, you know, as the cocky fighter
John
pilot.
Boyega, he's fantastic as well.
They all had great chemistry. They played their roles really well. Yeah, but I think that wraps it up. I think we've rambled on for long enough.
That's our thoughts.
Felt like a rant for some of that as well.
Yeah, and look, this is gonna be a long video, so if you've stuck to the end, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let us know what you thought of Rise of Skywalker. I mean, obviously we've had a lot of opinions, but we'd still like to know what you thought.
And look, guys, be respectful. You know, it's fine if you didn't like it. It's fine if you loved it. It's fine if you're on the fence about it. But just be respectful. You know, share your opinions respectfully. We're all here for the same reason because we love movies. We love talking about movies. Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick.
Simple
Because we're probably not going to respond to it. We're probably just going to delete it and forget about it. So you're probably just wasting your time, okay? So just be respectful, share your thoughts, and let's just have a bit of a conversation going about it, you know?
Yep.
Bit of a dialogue about it.
It's Star Wars. It's make-believe. It's fun.
It's entertainment. It's a
entertainment.
movie. Yeah.
Again, were you entertained? That's all that matters. So, let us know. Next time you see us, we will possibly be in a new house. We're in the process of moving at the moment, so...
Yeah, so our house is a mess. I know it doesn't look like it from the background that we got, but our house is a mess at the moment.
We got boxes everywhere.
So you probably have a very similar background. The wall just might change colour a little bit.
Don't be alarmed.
Don't be alarmed.
No.
Don't be alarmed. We might change the setup a little bit as well. We'll see how we go.
We'll see.
Yeah, but just a heads up.
We'll see you in the new house, I guess.
Yeah. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, slam that like button. Subscribe to our channel for more. But most importantly of all, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.